Officially official. Tennessee is going back to Adidas, and why this should be a very, very good thing, and fans should be excited about it for what's to come for Tennessee athletics, specifically recruiting. That and so much more Thursday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome into it, your brand new Locked On Vols edition of the show right here on a Thursday morning. I am your host, Cain. Appreciate you guys being here and electing to spend your Thursday morning, maybe your lunch hour, maybe you're on the treadmill later in the day. We are free and available anywhere you get your podcast. This is Locked On Vols. Every dayers couldn't do it without you guys. I'm your host, Cain, a member of the VolQuest.com team covering Tennessee athletics here in town. And today's show is going to be a fun one. Segments 2 and 3, we're going to throw it back, Throwback Thursday. Neyland Press Corps with Noah Taylor talking about the first ever night game in 1972. It was a Tennessee win over Penn State, but so many different storylines in this game. Number one, how the night game came to be and how, as spur of the moment, Tennessee just added lights because somebody was threatening not to come and finish a home and home here with Tennessee, or a part of that two-game agreement. More on that in segments 2 and 3, plus the first home game of Vol legend Condredge Holloway's career. That's coming up with Noah Taylor in segments 2 and 3 for Throwback Thursday. But first, hey, big news of the week, right? And it's not anything that's a surprise. It was never a who Tennessee was going to partner with for the apparel deal. If Tennessee was going to stay with Nike or go back to Adidas, it was just when. I mean, this is the worst kept secret in the world, right? Everybody's known that Tennessee's going back to Adidas for quite some time, but it became official yesterday when Tennessee made the announcement at 3:30. And this is not for this upcoming academic year, so Tennessee will still be with Nike for this football season, basketball season, baseball season. It will officially go into circulation, I believe, July the 1st. It's when that academic year kicks in for 2026. So the first time you'll see Tennessee players wearing the apparel of Adidas again will be next football season. Football, volleyball should be the first teams out there wearing the Adidas gear. So this is a big deal. First and foremost, I know fans have a lot of thoughts about this, and Nike's cool. The swish, I mean, that's all cool. Don't get me wrong. But in my opinion, if you're going to be a super fan, if you're going to be a big-time fan of Tennessee athletics or Tennessee football or college in general, because the landscape is so different nowadays, man, this should be a big deal for you. It really, really should be, in my opinion, because what Adidas provides vastly dominates, in my opinion, that of what Nike can provide right now. So, for instance, Adidas, part of its push right here is to prioritize college athletics, and that often opens doors for national branding campaigns that UT now in the current landscape can help facilitate. NIL opportunities for Tennessee athletes on a national scale. And Nike really just kind of does that with the professional routes, the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, but Adidas is prioritizing college. And so college athletes at Tennessee are now going to have, some of them, potentially some opportunities to have some national branding opportunities. It's a really, really cool deal, right? And, Tennessee, 10-year deal with Adidas. That's what they're going to, join into. The financials of it are undisclosed right now. We don't know how much money Tennessee's getting and all that, but Adidas is set to make Tennessee essentially the face of the franchise, right? I mean, I don't think that I've seen a quote saying that specifically, but Adidas is prioritizing Tennessee very, very much. And so for Tennessee to leave Nike, right? For Tennessee to move away from Nike, the financials had to be very, very important. The financials had to make sense. And obviously, we don't know those financials specifically, those numbers, but Tennessee made the move to Adidas for next year and for the next 10 years. And so it leads me to believe that the financials are where Tennessee wanted them to be. It's the era of revenue sharing, the era of NIL, and Adidas is giving Tennessee the best opportunity to compete in that landscape. So as a fan, in my opinion, you should be thrilled, right? Because this gives your program, your team, more opportunities to recruit star talented athletes to campus to play for your team, because they're going to have all these opportunities. So I think that's a big time deal. More on those financials. I know Nike paying Tennessee somewhere around like a base salary of $1.2 million each year for this year. I think they also had an allotment annual salary as well of around 4.5 maybe. I know that Tennessee also got an annual Nike Elite credit of around $100,000. I think the football team, basketball team, Lady Vols, I think they all kind of got one of those as well. Nike was negotiating, because it's the providing sponsor right now, the apparel partner for Tennessee. There was an exclusivity negotiating window where Nike could only talk to Tennessee about re-upping that deal, and that passed, I believe, at the end of March. And so since the end of there's national negotiating windows to where Adidas and some other companies can come in, and obviously it just kind of took off from there. So really excited to see kind of what this turns into. To my understanding, and I think I've read some places, Nike had the final say if Nike wanted to match or have a counter offer to what Adidas presented to Tennessee. And I don't believe Nike ever made a counter offer to that. So it was just, again, it was a matter of when this announcement was going to happen, not if, that Tennessee was going back to Adidas. So some really good stuff over at VolQuest.com. Brent Hubbs, Austin Price, Grant Ramey, myself, Rob Lewis, Matt Ray. I feel like, VolQuest.com, Brent specifically really knocked this out of the park, in terms of the breaking news of Tennessee going back to Adidas. Again, it's going to be a 10-year deal. The official apparel provider for the Vols and Lady Vols starting in the fall of 2026. A lot of comments specific to VolQuest. We'll read this real quick. This is the Chris McGuire. He's the VP of Sports Marketing for Adidas North America. This is what he had to say to VolQuest specifically. Quote, "We will continue to invest into NIL. We have an affiliate program where all student athletes can participate and essentially become an NIL athlete for Adidas," end quote. Again, just showing you yet again just another reason why this is so lucrative for prospective student athletes, for guys and gals Tennessee is recruiting on the high school realm. You come to Tennessee, you're going to have opportunities in the NIL world through Adidas, the essential apparel provider for the Vols and the Lady Vols. This is actually from the press release that was sent out by Adidas President John Miller, the president of Adidas North America. He had to say this, quote, this is from the press release. "Tennessee's creative team will remain the primary driver of uniform design throughout the partnership. Adidas will collaborate closely with Tennessee Creative, landing the brand's design expertise and innovative products to elevate the signature look of the Tennessee Volunteers." So what that means is Tennessee essentially has creative control. Tennessee's creative team will be working hand in hand with Adidas. So in no way, shape, or form will Tennessee athletes be bombarded or shocked with new uniform designs that weren't ever showed to Tennessee beforehand. It's Tennessee's creative team that's essentially leading that uniform design and working hand in hand with Adidas. So I know a lot of people got a lot of questions about that. Will Adidas have creative control? Will Tennessee have creative control? Pretty much Tennessee's going to be the lead in that area, but also working with Adidas in years to come. And, of course, I'm excited to see what this means. Black jerseys for football, smoky grays, will that continue or not? Can we get some throwback uniforms? That would be awesome. That would be fantastic. What's baseball team going to look like, right? I'm really, really intrigued to kind of see what all this looks like in the coming months. Obviously not going to happen in the next year. This is what Danny White had to say specifically to VolQuest when he did a sit down with Brent Hubbs. Quote, Adidas, have been heavily involved in NIL space since its inception. They have an entire division focused on NIL. They have student athletes from all over the country, some of which compete for our teams right now, that are signed up with their NIL program. So there's a lot of reasons why we feel like they've been the best partner for us as we march into the modern era of college sports. Again, that was Tennessee Athletics Director Danny White to Brent Hubbs of VolQuest.com. So this is a big deal. And again, I know that everybody likes Nike and everybody thinks Nike's the standard, and that's awesome, right? I'm not here, downgrading or talking bad about the apparel Nike. I've got a lot of stuff of Nike in my closet, right? But in this era of college athletics, in this era of the NIL-driven revenue-sharing era of college sports, this is a great move because Adidas is trying to prioritize the college landscape, and not only prioritize the college landscape with national branding opportunities, but really putting a ton of emphasis in the University of Tennessee, and trying to essentially, again, make Tennessee, quote unquote, the face of the franchise. And I think that's a really, really big deal. Really, really big deal. Another quote here from McGuire, who's the VP of Adidas North America. He said, quote, "Tennessee will always be a priority for us. We are excited to welcome them back into the brand. We're excited about what the future holds. We will continue to invest into NIL," and goes on to that quote that I read earlier. So I think this is a big deal. This is a big deal. Again, this won't take effect until essentially, this time next year. Tennessee's still going to be with Nike through the 2025-2026 academic year. Tennessee was with Adidas from 1998 to 2014, I believe, and then been with Nike ever since. So had a long run, obviously a long run with Adidas. Had some highs here lately with Nike, but going back to Adidas for the next apparel provider for the Vols and the Lady Vols. Now that it's official, though, I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts? Tennessee going back to Adidas. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? We'd love to hear from you right here on Locked On Vols, and maybe I'll share some of the opinions and some of your responses on the show coming up tomorrow for a Friday Locked On Vols. Hey, when we come back, let's throw it back. Throwback Thursday with Neyland press corps Noah Taylor discussing the first night game ever for Tennessee football back in 1972. Guys, don't change the dial. This is a really good story. This is a really interesting story with multiple storylines and multiple key points. It's fun. It's a good read, but we're going to talk about it. Me and Noah Taylor coming up next right here on your Thursday Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights or golf on the green or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are maybe trying to get the last little bit of summer, maybe at the beach, maybe out on the lake or whatever, getting sunburnt. You could be putting some coin in your pocket, watching sports that you're already watching, but obviously getting in on the action. New daily promotions make it always fun, different ways to bet. The app keeps it fresh every single day. It's easy to use, fast payouts, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching the bet right into the ninth inning, watching my Atlanta Braves for better or worse every single night, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm a part of the action every step of the way. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5, get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Again, FanDuel today to get started. You can make every single moment more with FanDuel. All right, today we're going to throw it back here on a Throwback Thursday with Neyland Press Corps to 1972. It was the home opener on September the 16th. It was Tennessee and Penn State. Tennessee won that game 28-21. But Noah, again, has his own Substack. He's got Neyland Press Corps. He does all this great work. And, of course, we do it here on Throwback Thursday every single week on Locked On Vols. Number of different storylines in this one. The first night game in the history of Neyland Stadium at Shields-Watkins Field, and the first home start for sophomore Condredge Holloway. We'll break this down. Let's first go up to about this being the first night game in the history of Neyland Stadium. And it's funny, it wasn't scheduled to be this, man. It was something that, came to be in the summer before the season started. So kind of walk us through how this came to be between Penn State and Tennessee playing in the first night game at Shields-Watkins Field.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite stories, and just one of my favorite games too. Just how it came to be and everything. It's a couple of years ago. I wrote a similar story and was able to talk to Coach Battle, Haskell Stanback, who was a running back on that team, had a great game. It was 2022 was the 50th anniversary coming up of this game that year. So I kind of guess to lay set the stage for this game, you kind of got to go back to 1971. That was the Tennessee's last game of the regular season. Was against Penn State, and Tennessee dominated them. Penn State was undefeated coming into it, top 5 team. They beat Tennessee. They're probably national champions. Franco Harris was a running back on that Penn State team, and Tennessee dominated them 31-11. Bobby Majors had a big game. Jackie Walker had a pick six that kind of put it away late. And so you think about scheduling in today's terms, you would think, okay, if Penn State and Tennessee are scheduled to play again in 9 months, then Tennessee's going to go to State College and play that second game. But that's not what happens. It's actually scheduled to be played in Memphis. And so Joe Paterno kind of tries to start laying the groundwork for maybe getting out of this game, or at least playing it in the state of Tennessee.
And as you pointed out in your story, he was not only the head football coach, but he was also acting athletic director as well.
Absolutely. So he's kind of got the I guess the leeway to maybe try to get this game moved to a different location. So he calls Bob Woodruff, who's the AD at Tennessee at the time, and he says, "Look, I know we're going to be playing in Memphis. I've talked to a meteorologist I know. It's supposed to be really hot that day in Memphis, and I don't really want my guys played in the heat down there. So let's play this game at night. Let's try to move this to a night kickoff.
First and foremost, again, I'm going to interject whenever I see a funny part of the story. Like, could you imagine, like, you remember Tennessee a couple years ago going down to LSU? That game wasn't in September. No, it wasn't. It was at the end of September, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it had Alabama the next week, I think. Or maybe.
I mean, I understand that this wasn't in like August or the 1st of September, but could you imagine Tennessee being like, you know what? It's going to be a little bit too hot and humid down there. We're good. Or all those years going to the swamp at the beginning of September. You know what? We're just going to sit this one out. I mean, I thought this was football. What a soft reasoning. And also, speaking with meteorologists months in advance, I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, yeah, it's probably going to be freaking hot that day. Just cracks me up. But he was doing everything he could to try to get out of that game.
Yeah, and so, yeah, absolutely. And it is funny to think about, you're coming to the South. You could probably guarantee it's going to be hot in early or mid-September. So, and if, they try to move the game tonight in Memphis, and Joe Paterno knows Memphis State is supposed to play that night. That's their home stadium. It was kind of supposed to be a doubleheader. Tennessee played a lot of games in Memphis in those days. You typically played at least one home game there because it was kind of a way for Tennessee to kind of expand its footprint into West Tennessee. Obviously, that's a far part of the state. Those fans out there didn't get to come to Neyland a lot, so Tennessee would play, usually one home game out there, and then usually they'd play maybe Ole Miss there as well. So you played there once or twice a year, but it was also Memphis State's home stadium, so they were scheduled to play that night. Joe Paterno told Bob Woodruff, look, we'll play you in Knoxville, but you need lights. And he knew Neyland Stadium didn't have lights at the time. And he said, if that doesn't happen, you can come to State College. We'll play you in a home game here in Happy Valley. So Bob Woodruff gets off the phone, and I talked to Coach Battle about this a few years ago. He runs into Battle's office. He says, look, I got an idea, a proposal here that I think you're going to like. We're getting lights. We're putting lights in this summer, and we're going to get Penn State to come here and play us again. Second time in 9 months. Now, Bob Woodruff tells Joe Pa this. He has absolutely no approval at this point from the school that they're going to put lights in at Neyland Stadium. So luckily, the school approved it, and they had the lights put in for $3,000. So that's how Tennessee is able to schedule its first night game. And it was rare in those days. I mean, Tennessee had played night games, but they were typically on the road, obviously, or at a neutral site. And one big reason why was a lot of Tennessee home games were scheduled in that noon to 1 to 2 o'clock time frame, mainly because you had fans coming from Nashville, Chattanooga, Atlanta, and it was kind of a way to say, okay, Saturday you get here, you come to watch the game, you get to go home at a decent time.
Yeah.
And plus, you didn't play on TV a lot, so you didn't really have to fight with those TV windows either. So that's how it came to be, and Tennessee got that scheduled. And one of my favorite quotes from Coach Battle in that interview was, he said that Bob Woodruff was ahead of his time. The guy was ahead of his time in getting things to happen like this. And you're getting an Eastern football power to come to your house for the second time in 9 months. 9 months after, you just dashed their national title hopes. It's a pretty remarkable story about how they were able to set this up.
Yeah, and at the end of your story that you released on Monday over on your Substack, you can see the free link, and you can go follow and support Noah's work there for awesome coverage of these games that have happened before. And at the end of your story chronicling this game, you have a quote here from Bud Ford, who I guess it was the luncheon before the Outback Bowl, Tennessee and Penn State in 2007. And Bud Ford went up to Joe Pa and was like, tell me about those 2 games in Knoxville. And Joe Pa responded, that Woodruff, he snookered me on that one. I mean, that is so funny. And again, I don't see that you might know this off hand, or maybe you don't, but I don't see a date of when these conversations started. Like, was this June? Was this July? Even if this was January, ahead of that game in 72, we know how things move at a snail's pace to get anything done on campus.
Yeah.
The fact that they're just like, hey, we're going to put up lights. And maybe, were there plans to put up lights in the years to come and they were just accelerated? I'm shocked that they just decided one day, hey, we're just going to put up lights at Neyland Stadium. And they got them up there, and they had a game at September the 16th, and they played at night.
No, you're right. I mean, that is one of the most remarkable things about it is things are so done in advance. Schedules are so done in advance. I mean, we know what Tennessee – mostly know what Tennessee's schedule is going to look like in 2030 at this point. it's hard to imagine, that you were able to just take one game from a neutral site in Memphis and then move it to home and have those lights installed so quickly. Now, as far as if that was in the plans for Tennessee, I'm not too sure, but it was interesting reading the newspaper archives. There was an article in there from Marvin West, and the lead was the old timers never thought it would happen. That Tennessee would play a night game, and there was excitement, and he had some people that were like, well, that's too late, in the day for me to go to a football game and all that. So you had some people that were big fans of it, some people that were iffy or on the fence on whether or not this was a good idea. So as far as reading those, I don't know if it was in the plans or if people had ever pictured or imagined a game at Neyland Stadium under the lights. But it certainly was a popular thing for Tennessee that night. And even now you see what a spectacle it's become when Tennessee plays at night.
And let's remember, night at Neyland, Spooky Rocky Top. I mean, it's a show. It's incredible now, obviously. Let's remember here, it was not until August the 9th, August the 8th, the game got rained out in the third inning, but officially August the 9th, 1988, when the Chicago Cubs finally played their first night game at Wrigley Field. So,
and Michigan played their first night game against Notre Dame, I think, in 2011. So it's crazy how some of these schools kind of stuck, almost like a tradition, really, that it was like, we're playing in the daytime and we don't care. Now I feel like with TV and everything like that, it kind of forces you to. But it's funny how long teams kind of held on to that tradition.
Yeah, it's wild. So Tennessee, it was not planned this way, but Tennessee got its first night game. It spent this is hilarious too, spent $3,000, just $3,000 to get 414,000 watt lights to fill Neyland Stadium and had the first night game at Neyland Stadium against Penn State, Tennessee and Penn State on September the 16th, 1972. Again, a game where Tennessee ended probably a national championship season for Penn State the year before, just bulldozed them, right? And that was at Neyland Stadium, was supposed to happen at Memphis the year after, which is ironic anyway. Why didn't they just do a true home and home? I don't know, but they essentially did a home and home where Tennessee got 2 home games out of that stretch. So some great administrative work right there for all involved. And let's talk about that game. A big game as well. The first home start for sophomore quarterback Condredge Holloway. And first chance for a lot of Tennessee fans to get a hold and get a look at the dynamic player and one of the all-time greats here at Tennessee and Condredge Holloway. We'll discuss the actual game coming up as we continue to look back here on Throwback Thursday with Neyland Press Court here on 1972 Tennessee and Penn State. All right, so it is 1972, September the 16th. The lights are up. Everybody's going to come in here. But it wasn't just the lights. I should have mentioned this in segment number 1. It wasn't just the lights. Tennessee put on a new upper deck at Shields-Watkins Field, Neyland Stadium, that increased capacity by about 6,000 seats up to 70,650. So you had new lights, you had more seats, and Penn State was one of the top 10 or so teams in the country. Arguably should have been the national champions the year before, if not for the Volunteers. Big game, nice venue. A lot of people got in there, and I think Bud Ford got even 1,000 more tickets because, as you wrote in here, everybody just wanted to come see what Neyland looked like at night.
Yeah, it was a massive deal. And I one thing again, posting the story, always get great feedback from fans that were there. That's one of the things I love the most. And there were a few yesterday that were like, I got stickers from that game. I got bumper stickers and signs and all these things were given out because it was a big deal. And, there was an article in the paper the following day where, a News Sentinel reporter just went around and asked everybody what they thought of it. And it was talking about the traffic was backed up. I thought it was funny that it said people were showing up 3 hours early. Like that was a big deal. I mean, my goodness, you can imagine now. If you get to, especially as a reporter, you get to Neyland Stadium 3 hours early, man, you might as well be late because you're going to be fighting through traffic and fans, the ball walk, all those kind of things just to get to the press box. So, but in that time, 3 hours early was a sign that people were excited to be there and get in their seat. And it must have been an incredible atmosphere for Tennessee. But you mentioned Condredge. That was a big deal too for people to see. We talked about it a few weeks ago on here. More than 31,000 people showed up for a freshman game against Notre Dame to see him play the year before. It was a lot of expectations for him because he was a guy ahead of his time. We talked about Woodruff being ahead of his time as an administrator. Well, Condredge was ahead of his time as a player. You didn't see a lot of quarterbacks do the things that he could do. And, and your two rivals, he's a Huntsville guy. Your two rivals, Alabama and Auburn, wanted him too. They wanted him to play. They couldn't guarantee they'd give him a quarterback spot, but they wanted him to play. A lot of people wanted him to play, but Bill Battle was the only guy that said, hey, you're going to come here and get a fair shot at quarterback. So there was a lot of anticipation for this game. And, he had played the week before against Georgia Tech in a nationally televised game in Atlanta. And, I talked to Bill Battle about this. I said, what was kind of the moment where you thought this guy, or you knew this guy was going to be special? And believe it or not, he said it was on an interception. It was like a simple out route. Condredge threw it right to a Georgia Tech defensive back. That guy had a lot of grass in front of him. Probably should have been a pick six. Condredge chased him down and knocked him out of bounds, probably like inside the 10. And Georgia Tech settles for a field goal. And that was kind of the moment Bill Battle thought, this guy's special. And so Tennessee fans were excited to get to see that for the first time at Neyland Stadium. And, certainly he put all those tools on full display, man. You go back and watch the highlights. I put a little bit of them in the story as well that belong to Vol Network. Some great clips of that game. And with some John Ward commentary, if you want to go watch it. And it's incredible what he was able to do. And you can see you had in the night, the lights, all that stuff, and then what he was able to do. It was just must have been an electrifying atmosphere.
Yeah, and don't forget, it was not only Auburn, it was not only Alabama that Tennessee beat out. It was also the Montreal Expos, fantastic baseball player, as we know, right? And after his Tennessee career was done, he ended up going and being a Hall of Famer in the Canadian Football League, as we've documented before. But Patriots drafted him in the 12th round as a DB. And, everybody just wanted him, but Tennessee was the only team that really gave him a shot to play quarterback. And obviously, he made Tennessee proud in that decision for sure. Let's get to the game here. Tennessee just absolutely pummeled them last year, the year before in 1971, coming off a huge win over Georgia Tech, looking good doing it, and then led Penn State 21-0 at the half, right? And Penn State had some punch in the second half, much more than they had the year before, but 21-0 at halftime. 2 defensive interceptions for the Volunteers defense, setting up 2 easy runs, 3 total rushing touchdowns for Tennessee in that first half. It looked like it was going to be yet another slugfest. Didn't end that way. Tennessee still got the win, but it looked like Tennessee was off to the races once again.
Yeah, it was almost like a repeat of what they did before. The setup by the defense. It's funny, you go back and look at that 71 game, as dominating as Tennessee was, it was a pretty abysmal day for their offense. And so, to come in and do the same thing and have your defense set up and pay those turnovers off with touchdowns. Joe Paterno and Penn State had to be like, man, I can't believe we're in this situation again. Not only did they get us to come back down here, now we're down 21-0. And this is Penn State's first game. Tennessee had the Georgia Tech game as its opener. This was Penn State's opener. So, they just jump out to a big lead, and it just kind of looks like they're going to run away with it. But, as you mentioned there, Penn State punches back in the second half. Tennessee turns the ball over. I think Penn State scored in the third quarter. Then Tennessee turns the ball over. Penn State scores again off that turnover. And then next thing you know, you're going in the fourth quarter. It's a one-score game. So, in the moment, maybe Tennessee fans are feeling, they're anxious, obviously. But for it being your night game, it might as well be a good, close one. So, it was definitely that way going into the fourth quarter. And that's when Condredge Holloway came through again. He had to lead them on a pretty lengthy drive. It was methodical. Also in the story, I've kind of clipped some highlights as well that you can watch of that drive specifically. But he kind of did it all on it, man. A couple of runs here and there. They converted third down twice. The biggest third down conversion came, Tennessee's deep in Penn State territory. Condredge had already gotten away from the Penn State defense once to convert one of those third downs on a run. This time they come in, they're prepared for it. They got their hands all over the guy. And as he's going down, he pitches it off to Haskell Stanback, who had the 2 rushing TDs in the first, all the rushing TDs, I think, for Tennessee in that first half. Ball goes up high behind his head, and he's able to palm it, back behind, pretty much up in the air like this, and then come down with it. Still eludes some guys and gets all the way down to the goal line, and then scores on the next play. So you kind of got, Tennessee fans, if you were there, you kind of got an idea of what Condredge Holloway was going to bring you for the next 3 years at that position. And you probably hadn't seen a guy play like that before. So, and Haskell Stanback, when I interviewed him a couple years ago, he said that game was a big deal for them. It felt kind of personal because even though you had just beaten them 9 months before, there was still this talk about how good Penn State was still going to be in 1972, and how good they were coming into this game, and how they had kind of the revenge factor, maybe an edge there. And it was personal for them to come and prove it again, and they did. He certainly did too with the 3 rushing scores.
Yeah, he was fantastic. Of course, reading your story over here at Neyland Press Corps, and you just don't see football like Condredge played anymore. And not to say that he was ever coached to do what he just did on that play where he's going down, he just pitches it back. Like, you might not play if you do that nowadays. It's like, don't be silly with the football, don't turn over the football. But you saw so much, I mean, guys just going out there and making plays, and that's just one example. One of my favorite part, if not the favorite part of the story that I read from you, and we'll end on this. How weird is it that Joe Pa went and addressed Tennessee's team after the game? I'm going to pull this quote from you. Where did you get this quote? Is this from the Sentinel or from the Tennessean? Where'd you get this one?
Oh, is it the one from his I'm sorry, which one was it?
I'll read it here and then we'll talk about it later, but this is a fantastic quote. He said, Paterno said he wanted, this is Bill Battle talking. Paterno said he wanted to talk to our team. I held my players before we let the press come in. He came, by the way, the press can go in the locker room back then. How cool is that? He came in over to our dressing room and he congratulated them and said, the real reason I'm over here is that I told my friends back at State College that I wasn't leaving Knoxville without being in the winning dressing room. I just didn't think it would come. I didn't think this would be how I'd have to do it. I thought that was about as classy as a thing that I've ever heard in my 35 years, or in my time as Tennessee's coach. I mean, could you imagine Tennessee beating Alabama in 2022 and Nick Sabin coming over there and just saying, "Hey guys, hey, great job, man. You know, we had 16 on you, but boy, that was 15 wins in a row. That was quite the way to win this one, man. What an environment right now." Could you imagine Nick Sabin doing that in Tennessee? Like, that's just unheard of nowadays in college football.
Yeah, a completely different time, and that quote was from Coach Battle in our interview. I mean, he was definitely.
Oh, from you? Okay, so he said that to you. Cool.
Yeah, he was impressed with Joe Pa doing that, and it meant a lot to him. You know, it's obviously 50 years later, he was still talking about it. And one thing I thought was funny too, Coach Battle told me this. I didn't include it in the story, but before that game, I believe it was the morning of that game, they had a banquet, like a media banquet, where. Tennessee, it was kind of like thanking the press for their coverage, first home game, all that kind of stuff. And Joe Paterno spoke at it, which I thought was interesting. And Bill Battle said he got up there on stage and he said, first thing he said was, if I ever needed a heart or a brain transplant, I'd want it to come from a journalist because I've never used either. So I thought that was great. Yeah, he had a good laugh about that one. So you can kind of tell, even today, that coaches and reporters, definitely have clashed. That's like an age-old battle, I guess. But
oh man, we need to do and we're running out of time here, but we need to do just like an unfiltered show one time, just talking about. There's a lot of great people that I'm not trying to sit here and take shots or dissing. There's so many great people. Like, obviously I cover Tennessee, so there's so many great people at Tennessee that help people like us in our positions. But it is just completely different from now to what it used to be. And like how it would have been so unique. Not to say we don't work hard. I feel like I work pretty hard, right? But you'd have to work harder covering a team last year just because you could see whatever you wanted to, right? But anyway, just really, really cool stuff. No, this is, again, I told you before we got on here, like, I enjoy all your reads, but man, this might be one of my favorite ones just because, again, there's three different storylines here. You got the lights, impromptu light show, right? Like, that was the first light show ever in Neyland Stadium.
Yeah.
Then you got the return, or what I'm looking to play Penn State yet again, okay? And after what happened the year before, and then of course Condredge Holloway and kind of what he did in his first game at Neyland Stadium. So really, really good read. Go check it out. Noah, you've got stuff coming out every single morning. Neyland Press Corps over on your Substack. It is a free follow. I've got the link in my show notes as well. What do you guys got coming up? Maybe next week or in the weeks to come?
Yeah, in the next couple of weeks, I know I talked about it a lot last week as well, but really excited about a story coming out about the 1966 Gator Bowl game in anticipation for – it'll come out the week of Tennessee's kickoff, their opener against Syracuse. Tennessee played Syracuse in that Gator Bowl. An exciting game with some really cool storylines. And it's funny, I was thinking of it when you mentioned you don't see a lot of players make take chances or take risks like Holloway did there on that pitch to stand back with a 1-score lead. There's a really funny story from that 66 Gator Bowl game with Dewey Warren. I talked to him a couple weeks ago for this, and he was awesome. He was great. Had some really great stuff I'm excited to share. But there was a sequence in that game, a play in that game, where if it happened today, some guys would probably be benched. So I can't wait to tell that one and write that one up and have you guys read it.
Yep, looking forward to it. Noah Taylor, Neyland Press Corps. We do it every single Thursday right here. We call it Throwback Thursday right here on Locked On Vols. Fun show today here on Throwback Thursday, talking with Noah Taylor of Neyland Press Corps and talking about Tennessee's first ever night game at Shields-Watkins Field, Neyland Stadium, back in 1972 when Tennessee took down Penn State for the second straight year. Also, Tennessee made national moves, moving back to Adidas. That was announced yesterday afternoon. Will take place not this year, but next year, 2026-27 academic year. Would love to hear your thoughts on that right here at _Cainer and at Locked On Vols. Please put a comment here on the YouTube channel. Let me know what you think about Tennessee's move back to Adidas. All right, that is going to do it here for this edition of Locked On Vols. Again, free and available wherever you get your show. Tell your friends, tell your family members, this is the show for them. Football season right around the corner. Scrimmage number 2 is coming up tomorrow. What I want to see from Tennessee leaving scrimmage number 2, what I want to hear, don't get to watch, from Tennessee football leaving scrimmage number 2. That's coming up on tomorrow's show right here on Locked On Vols.